to close with a personal story, one that I often don't tell because it's painful in many ways. I'm the oldest sibling of three. I grew up always wanting to be a teacher. So when I was 16 years old, I joined a mentoring program that supported at-risk youth, kids at risk of dropping out from school, and also a program that helped wounded veterans returning home from war. I was blessed to mentor a young girl named Cheyenne. She was smart, kind, and sometimes sassy, and she came from impossible circumstances. She lived in a trailer park. Her mom struggled with drug addiction and lack of health care. And she often took care of her younger brother after school, the same way that I grew up taking care of mine. Right before her 18th birthday, she committed suicide. She was rushed to the ICU and declared brain dead after 12 hours on a respirator. And her family was not only crushed by her death, but the medical bills that followed. And shortly after she passed, about a year later, I found out that wounded veterans, two of them that I worked closely with during my time in high school and lack of health care, had also taken their lives. We live in one of the wealthiest states in the wealthiest country on the history of this planet. And yet young people like Cheyenne and veterans who have risked their life for our country in war are pushed to the brink of suicide because our government refuses to guarantee our basic human rights of healthcare, housing, and a good education. Those are not big asks of our government. And it is unconscionable that people tout themselves as nuanced or progressive when we have working people struggling just to survive. We need someone who's walked a few miles in those shoes, who has survived suicide, who has survived starvation wages, working paycheck to paycheck, and funding their own classroom and making sure their students are fed on a daily basis. I took this step to fight for people who have constantly been ignored and left behind in the 49th district. And I'm proud to be fighting for them because I have shared their pain and carried that pain for many years. So together in solidarity, I believe that we have an opportunity to transform Virginia into a place that fights and works for all of us, not just the wealthy and the powerful few. And my commitment to you and to this district will always be to center those closest to the pain of injustice. And I thank you all for being here today, for listening to my story, and I hope to earn your vote during early voting and on June 8th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Delegate Alfonso Lopez.
Thank you, everyone. Just to respond to one thing that's been brought up a couple times right now, let me be very clear. The people who donate to my campaign are buying into my agenda, not the other way around. To see proof of that, just look at my record. 100% lifetime rating from the League of Conservation Voters, 100% lifetime rating from VEA, Virginia Education Association, and an A rating from NARAL Pro-Choice Virginia, and a Green New Deal champion. I've received the endorsement of all of the Northern Virginia organized labor groups who have endorsed in this campaign. In this last session alone, I got my entire legislative agenda, every bill signed into law to close the Charleston loophole on gun sales, secure $800 million in funding for the Chesapeake Bay cleanup, secure in-state financial aid for Dreamer students who are too often left behind, create the first ever LGBTQ plus advisory board in the South, guarantee COVID-19 treatment, testing, and vaccinations for our undocumented populations and individuals who are unable to afford healthcare, strengthen oversight for localities on bad actor establishments, provide voter pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. That doesn't sound like a corporate-backed agenda. I want to thank everyone for coming this morning, and thank you to the Arlington Democrats for hosting. I promised 10 years ago that I'd be a tireless champion for our values and progressive policies in Richmond, and I've kept my promise. I pledged to help build a Democratic majority in Richmond so that we could actually accomplish our vision, our goals, our principles, our values. And now we've got to defend it. My parents used to say that there's nothing more important than working to lift up those who are poor and sick and oppressed and afraid. Keeping that bond with my mom and dad has paid me back 1,000-fold. Looking back, they were almost always right, especially about the fact that there's nothing in the world as rewarding as helping people. Meeting a dreamer who can now afford to go to college. Meeting a family that has a roof over their head because of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Making sure a constituent family doesn't lose their heat in the winter. Meeting a young mom winning the battle against cancer who has health insurance because we were able to expand Medicaid. Making it easier for women and minority-owned small businesses to grow and thrive. And ensuring that the social safety net that was there for my parents is there for future generations as well. Going forward, we need to create more prosperity and do it in a way where everybody wins. We need to invest in our infrastructure and in our workforce, and most of all, in our children. To do that, we need a delegate with experience and a deep, nuanced understanding of public policy and the legislative process in Richmond. The issues before us are far too important to settle for anything less if we're going to keep Virginia moving forward. I will continue to be a champion for our values and priorities. I will continue fighting for the community I love. And with your support, we will continue to elect more Democrats in Richmond so that we have a government that truly reflects our shared principles. My name is Alfonso Lopez. I'm running for re-election to the House of Delegates to build a better future for my kids, my family, and for you and your families. I ask for your support and vote on Election Day. Together, let's continue building a Virginia that lifts everyone up and leaves no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much.